Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of the massive book haul. So if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you go back and watch that video first. I go over all the books in this stack here. In this video, I'm going to be going over all the books in this stack over here. So we're gonna dive right in. In the last video, I went over the books that I've thrifted and also the books that I scored at the dollar store. In this stack, I believe most of these are thrifted. Maybe some are from a free little library. So let's dive right in with our first book. I'm gonna push those out of the way a little bit. We have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I want to say that this is the first Emily Henry book that I've read, and if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I've been rereading a lot of books this year. It's the year of rereads, and I've reread People We Meet on Vacation. I'm currently working through my reread of Book Lovers, and I want to reread Beach Read as well. I remember liking this book. From what I remember, it's about two authors on a little summer vacation. I believe their beach houses are in close proximity. I actually think they're neighbors, and they're both trying to write their next novel. So I love a book about books. I love a book about authors, about writing, so on. So I do look forward to rereading Beach Read by Emily Henry. If you are looking for a summer book recommendation and you haven't read Beach Read yet, I do recommend Beach Read by Emily Henry. Next up, we have An Echo in the Darkness by Francine Rivers. A little bit spooky. Not the most beautiful cover, but we shouldn't judge books by their covers. Actually, I could do a whole video on that. That's actually a pre-reading strategy and something I do encourage young readers to do. First step in reading and determining what a book is about, looking at the cover. But that was a little bit of a tangent. So here we have An Echo in the Darkness by Francine Rivers, and it's in the series Mark of the Lion, and it's book 2. So I love Francine Rivers. I've read a few of her books so far, and I have to get my hands on number 1 in the series, obviously, before I can read this one. So I'm not even going to go over what this book is about. Actually, I kind of can't, because the price tag is on the synopsis, which that's a pet peeve. But it's Francine Rivers. She typically writes Christian fiction, and I've loved the books I've read of hers, and I think I want to read most, if not all, of her books. So when I saw this at the thrift store, I kind of just had to buy it, even though it's book 2. That is An Echo in the Darkness by Francine Rivers. Next up, we have The Boardwalk Bookshop by Susan Mallory, looking like another beach read. I think I'm just going to read a little bit of the back of this book instead of trying to give the synopsis myself. So we have When Fate Brings Three Strangers to a Charming Space for Lease on the California coast, the Boardwalk Bookshop is born. Part bookstore, part gift shop, part bakery. I remember now why I picked up this book, because that's actually my dream. And it's also a dream come true for Bree, Mickey, and Ashley, but while their business is thriving, their personal lives are not. Well, honestly, I don't need to read this book to come to the conclusion that your life will continue to thrive because you own a bookshop, bakery, and gift store. So that is The Boardwalk Bookshop. I will read it, even though I just drew that conclusion, because cute. But yeah, that's The Boardwalk Bookshop by Susan Mallory. Next, we have Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. That is an absolutely stunning cover. I read Tom Lake by Ann Patchett back in May, and I was enthralled. That book was so unexpected and incredible. It made me want to read other Ann Patchett books. So I am a little hesitant. I don't know why, Possibly because I loved Tom Lake so much, I'm a little nervous that her other books won't impact me the way Tom Lake impacted me, but that's silly and I shouldn't let that prevent me from picking up her other books because Ann Patchett is an acclaimed author. She has won numerous awards and accolades, so I'm sure all of her books are great. So with Bel Canto, we have an opera taking place in South America somewhere at a vice president's lavish birthday party, and it seems as though the party has been infiltrated by terrorists. So what is supposed to be a celebration turns out to be a hostage situation, but it also says that there's like a somewhat unexpected turn, and what begins to be panicked and life-threatening evolves into something quite different. So high stakes, I want to say, but at the same time, maybe not. From my experience reading Tom Lake, I think that Ann Patchett likes to do something a little unexpected in her writing that is supposed to be maybe ordinary to a certain extent. I think she likes to give us a new perspective. So in the case of a party that is then taken over by hostages, we would expect that to end in brutality and horror, but knowing Ann Patchett, or somewhat knowing Ann Patchett's writing, I guess she wants to change the perspective and make it almost like a happy or less scary situation. Again, I don't know. I am totally making assumptions here based off of the flap, but I am interested, and I don't know when I'll be picking this up, but I definitely will, hopefully in the near future. That is Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. Next, we have The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. I love that title, The Kingdom of Sweets. It definitely drew me in. I wanted to know more, and by reading the flap, it is a reimagining of the Nutcracker. So if you know the Nutcracker, then this is just a spin-off of it. That is The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. Next, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this cover as well. I read The Daisy Jones and the Six. I actually listened to that book years ago. I want to say prior to the pandemic. And that's the only Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've read. And I know that there's massive hype around this author, and she's written some incredible books that have been like bestsellers. So don't ask me why I haven't picked up any of her other books, but loved this cover. And when I saw it, I thought, you know what, this would be a good book to pick up while it's summer, while I'm living in California. And love that there's surfers on the cover. Maybe my husband will read this because he surfs. So this takes place in the 1980s. I guess it centers around the famous Rivas, I believe the last name is, and they are a bunch of surfers and supermodels, from what I'm gathering. Talented surfer and supermodel and championship surfer, and the others are renowned photographers. So just a bunch of very successful people all in one family, and they're throwing a party, and Nina, she's not looking forward to this party. She doesn't want any of the attention, but it seems like everyone else loves this party. It's the party of the year. But what is supposed to be an epic, unforgettable party ends literally in flames. So I guess there's some tragedy at some point of this story. I'm sure there's a lot of complex dynamics between the family members and the relationships they have with one another and the other people that are coming to the party. I believe that Taylor Jenkins Reid does write pretty complex characters and relationships, so I'm assuming that this story will deliver in that regard. And then also, I'm just really interested in knowing why the party goes up in flames. The last paragraph on the flap says, Malibu Rising is a story about one unforgettable night in the life of a family, the night they each have to choose what they will keep from the people who made them and what they will leave behind. So interested in this one, and we will see when I get to it. That is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this one holds a special place in my heart. This is the last book in my massive book haul. This is Moosekitos. It's Moosekitos by Margie Palantini, an incredible children's book author. Moosekitos, a Moose Family Reunion. I haven't read this one yet. I've read a couple pages and it had me cracking up. But I fell in love with this family when I was in elementary school. There's a book called Moosekitos by Margie Palantini. And if you don't know, Margie Palantini writes some of the best children's picture books. If you have children, please go to the library, go to the bookstore, look for Margie Palantini's work. Her books rhyme, they're catchy, they're funny. The illustrations are always great, which she, I guess, can't take credit for because she's not the illustrator, but she always has fantastic artists illustrate her books. And a lot of times, Margie Palantini's books are spin-offs of fairy tales. But not always. Like in this case, we don't have a spin-off of a fairy tale. We just have a family that happens to be a moose family. And they are quirky. And they're really just a regular family, but they're moose. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but read children's books. Like, you're never too old to pick up a children's book because you'll learn something from it. You'll get something out of it. Like, there is a reason why children's picture books are so influential and impactful to a child's life. It's because they form readers. So they must be great in some way, right? So if you're in a reading slump, maybe you need to read a children's picture book. Listen, I know I'm a school librarian, so that's where I'm coming from, but one of the best parts of my job when I was a school librarian was rediscovering the books I loved as a kid or discovering new picture books. So this is Moosekitos, a Moose Family Reunion by Margie Palantini, and it is the last book in my massive book haul. I counted at one point, but I don't remember the number. I want to say 15, 16, or 17 books here. So my wallet took a hit, but I did thrift a majority of these, and the other ones that were new were $1.25 each from the dollar store. So that may be a thing. If you don't have a thrift store, find your nearest Dollar Tree because you might find some great books there. I'm more than pleased with all the books that I have added to my home library. I can't wait to read some of these, hopefully all of them within the next year and a half, but that may be overly ambitious. Let me know, again, if you read any of these, if you want to read any of these. Tell me what books you've recently acquired and where do you shop for your books and get the best prices. So like I said, the thrift store, awesome. The Dollar Tree came as a surprise to me. But maybe you know of a place to shop for books where the prices are amazing. If you want to share that with me, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. I can't read.